You don't have to share your every move. There's no need to explain your goals, plans, or dreams to everyone. What you need is to build steadily, quietly, and with consistency. The truth is, most people prefer to talk about change rather than take real action. But that's not you. You're different. You're here to create something meaningful, and that starts in silence. The first way to build quietly is straightforward. Take control of your mornings. Wake up with intention, not by reaching for your phone. Mornings are your time. They set the tone for the rest of your day. When you start by investing in yourself, whether it's through exercise, writing, or focused learning, you send a clear message to your mind. I matter. My future matters. Don't let your mornings get consumed by distractions. Reclaim them. That's where your momentum begins. Second, protect your space like it's essential, because it is. Quiet progress requires guarding your energy. Not everyone should have access to you. Not every request deserves a yes, especially if it pulls you away from your path. That's a distraction. You don't have to explain your silence or justify your focus. Say no with confidence. You're not being rude. You're being intentional. You're not distant. You're evolving. Let your boundaries reflect your purpose. Third, stop sharing your plans in advance. You don't owe anyone a detailed roadmap. Every time you talk about your intentions, your brain rewards you with a small sense of satisfaction. That's risky. It creates the illusion of progress. Speak less. Act more. Let others wonder. Let your results speak loud enough that no one remembers how quiet you were. Fourth, prioritize learning, not scrolling, not gossip. Learning, read, observe, study, then apply. Those who grow quietly are constant learners. They don't wait for direction. They seek knowledge and use it. Make learning part of who you are. You don't need a certificate to grow. You need drive, discipline, and follow through. Fifth, stay consistent, even when it's dull. That's what separates those who finish from those who quit. Anyone can begin. Anyone can show up when it's exciting. But those who truly grow keep showing up when it's repetitive, when motivation fades, when no one's watching. Quiet success is built during the days you'd rather skip, but don't. That's how you stand apart. Sixth, guard your mindset. Everything starts there. You can't build something meaningful with negative thoughts running unchecked. You have to reset them. Replace doubt with structure. Replace fear with steps forward. Replace comparison with focus. Don't give your energy to people who don't understand your direction. You're not here to gain approval. You're here to progress. So maybe you're not making noise right now. Maybe no one's watching. But don't confuse being quiet with being weak. Silence is where true growth happens. It's where the mindset begins to shift, where habits take root, where confidence is built, and where the real work starts. And when the time comes when the world finally sees who you've become, they won't remember your silence. They'll remember your transformation, not because you talked about it, but because you lived it. Here's something important. The world doesn't need to know what you're working on. You don't have to post every move, explain every step, or share dreams with people who won't understand them. In reality, the most successful, focused, and resilient people build quietly. They put in the work when no one's looking, when no one's cheering them on, and when no one is validating their effort. Because they understand what truly matters. Your growth is your responsibility. It doesn't require an audience. The first step in building yourself quietly is mastering your mornings. That means starting your day with intention, not by scrolling on your phone. Wake up and claim those early hours. Build a routine that activates your mind before the day pulls you in. Move your body, write your thoughts, work on your goals, not for attention, not for content, but because it shapes the tone of your day. Quiet growth begins with ownership, and it starts the moment your feet touch the ground. You don't need to post a workout photo. You don't need to check in for approval. Discipline matters more than motivation. Make it a non-negotiable, even if it's just for a few focused moments. Just show up. Then create boundaries like your life depends on it. Because it truly, you don't owe everyone your time, energy, or explanations. You're not here to please the crowd. You're here to build something meaningful, and that requires space, silence, and focus. When you're constantly reacting to distractions, drama, or opinions, you're draining your strength. Quiet self-development means saying no more often, even if that disappoints people. Protect your peace, guard your goals, and recognize this. Every time you say no to what doesn't matter, you're saying yes to what does. Third, stop sharing your every step. This part is essential. You don't need to announce your plans before they're finished. Why? Because talking about your goals can trick your mind into feeling a sense of progress that isn't real. Words can create comfort without results. The ones who talk the most often do the least. So change the path. Let others think you're inactive. Let them underestimate you. That's your edge. Let your outcomes speak so loudly that there's no need for words. The quiet effort behind closed doors is building something greater than they expect, and they won't see it coming. Fourth, commit to learning every day. Quiet builders are consistent learners. They don't waste time scrolling or engaging in gossip. They read, study, observe, listen, and most importantly, they apply what they learn. If you want to change your life, start by feeding your mind like your future depends on it. Because it does. Learning doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't require a diploma or formal degree. It can be 15 minutes of reading, listening to a podcast while commuting, or taking an online course after work. You don't need a platform or spotlight to be a student of life. What you need is hunger and discipline. Fifth, stay consistent, even when no one's watching. This is where most people give up. When results are slow, when progress feels invisible, when it seems like nothing's working, the quiet builder keeps going. They understand the power of small, steady action. They don't rely on motivation. They depend on structure, habits, and perseverance. You keep showing up, even when it's repetitive. You follow through when it's inconvenient. You keep your word to yourself, even when no one else is watching. That's how real growth happens. Not in one defining moment, but in hundreds of quiet ones stacked over time. And finally, protect your mindset like it's your foundation. The noisy world will challenge your confidence. Some people will doubt, question, or ignore you. But you don't need their approval. You need belief in yourself. Each day, remind yourself, I'm building, I'm evolving. I'm not who I was last year, last month, or even yesterday. And that growth, it's not for everyone to notice. It's for you to live out quietly, consistently, and with purpose. The strongest version of you isn't loud, it's focused. And when you build in silence, you become unstoppable. You don't need permission to change. You don't need a large audience, perfect timing, or public validation. What you need is a choice, a decision to grow for yourself, not for recognition, but for who you're becoming. When you stop chasing attention and start focusing on improvement, everything shifts. Quiet growth is powerful because it's driven by intention, not applause. One of the most effective ways to grow quietly is to create a personal code, a set of non-negotiables that guide how you live. These aren't for public display, they're personal promises. Maybe it's waking up before 6 a.m. Maybe it's avoiding social media until after you've worked on your goals. Maybe it's reading 10 pages daily, meditating, exercising, or drinking more water. The specifics don't matter. What matters is that you follow through, not for recognition, not for reward, but because that's who you are becoming. Quiet builders live by a personal code, one that reinforces their identity day after day. Another way to grow in silence is by embracing solitude, not loneliness. There's a difference. Solitude is intentional. It's the space you create when you step away from the noise and allow yourself to hear your own thoughts. When you spend time alone without distractions, you begin to reconnect with what matters. You gain clarity on your values, your beliefs, and the direction you want to take. That clarity is essential. When you're constantly surrounded by people, opinions, and comparisons, it's easy to lose sight of your path. Solitude brings your focus. It helps you realize you're not here to follow others. You're here to lead yourself. Quiet building also means letting go of the need for motivation, and instead building systems. Motivation comes and goes. It rises and fades quickly. Systems, however, create structure. You don't have to feel inspired to take action. You do it because it's built into your routine. Quiet growth is built on repeatable habits. And here's the truth. When you stop relying on feelings and start relying on discipline, you gain consistency. Set your goals, break them into daily actions, and follow through every day regardless of mood. That's how lasting results are created, not under bright lights, but in the background, with structure and silence. Another key principle is learning to delay gratification. In a world focused on quick results, quiet builders play the long game. They understand that true success is not instant. It's earned. Confidence isn't created through shortcuts. It's built through patience and effort. You stay focused while others seek constant entertainment. You choose discipline while others look for ease. Not because it's glamorous, but because it's necessary. And in time, the same people who questioned your silence will want to know how you did it. You also need to release the urge to prove yourself to others. When you're truly focused on self-development, your only comparison is who you were yesterday. The moment you stop measuring progress by someone else's timeline is the moment you take control. Comparison distracts. It pushes you to perform instead of evolve. Quiet builders don't perform. They grow on their terms and at their pace. They acknowledge small wins. They measure their own growth. They don't seek attention because they're too focused on becoming. Finally, quiet growth includes healing. You face your past, your patterns, and your pain, not to dwell on them, but to move beyond them. This process is personal, often unseen by others, but it's what truly transforms everything. You forgive, you let go, you unlearn the beliefs that once held you back. In doing so, you become lighter, stronger, and more grounded. This internal work may never be shared online. Stay consistent, even when no one claps. There may never be applause, but this is the foundation of the person you're becoming. So if you're working on yourself, quietly improving, steadily growing, keep going. You don't need to be seen. You don't need to be loud. You just need to stay committed, because one day the results will show. And when they do, people won't ask what you said. They'll ask how you did, and your answer will be simple. I built myself. Quietly, consistently, fully. Every time you choose to stay focused instead of chasing validation, you're building inner strength. Most people never develop self-trust. Quiet self-development isn't just about staying out of the spotlight. It's about becoming the kind of person who no longer depends on praise or recognition to move forward. You won't need anyone to say you're doing great, because you'll already know. That kind of confidence is rare. It's earned, not given. There's a unique strength in working in silence. You're not distracted by judgment. You're not influenced by compliments or criticism. You stop adjusting your goals based on who's paying attention. Your focus sharpens. You stop looking outward and start looking inward. And when that shift happens, something changes. You stop trying to be impressive and start becoming effective. You stop chasing attention and start chasing depth. Most people stay on the surface. What looks good, what sounds good, what's popular. But quiet builders go deep. They're not trying to appear successful. They're working to become successful. And that difference matters. Another benefit of building quietly is freedom. The freedom to make mistakes without an audience. Growth is not neat. You will fail. You will stumble. You'll try things that don't work. But when you're not broadcasting every move, you create space to experiment and adapt. You don't need to explain setbacks. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your pace. You simply learn, adjust, and keep moving. Quiet builders allow themselves to fail privately so they can succeed publicly. True mastery isn't developed in front of a crowd. It's shaped in solitude, through effort, and in silence. You also grow more resilient when you're no longer dependent on outside feedback. You become unaffected by noise. People may doubt you. They may ask why you're quiet, why you're not making announcements, why you're not posting everything. Let them wonder. While they're talking, you're building. And the more you build, the stronger your foundation becomes. That strength doesn't come from hype. It comes from knowing your habits align with your vision, even if no one else sees the full picture. Now let's talk about patience, because quiet growth demands it. The world encourages speed, quick results, instant success, fast win. But when you build yourself quietly, you understand that real transformation takes time. You're not rushing. You're not trying to fast-track your dreams. You're planting seeds, caring for them daily, and trusting the process. That kind of patience gives you an edge. It makes you steady in a world chasing speed. While others burn out chasing shortcuts, you're still standing, still growing, still building. You're using isolation, not as weakness, but as strength. Building quietly also brings clarity. When you remove the noise, the opinions, the expectations, and the constant urge to perform, you finally begin to hear your own voice. You get honest about what matters to you. You reconnect with your purpose. And with that clarity, you begin to make better decisions. Not out of pressure, but out of intention. You stop trying to fit into roles that were never meant for you. Instead, you start building a life that aligns with your values, your truth, and your strength. Here's what many people miss. Quiet doesn't mean weak. It doesn't mean small. It's not about hiding. Quiet means focused, deliberate, and powerful. You're not shrinking. You're refining. You're not withdrawing. You're rebuilding. And when the moment comes for you to step forward, it won't be loud. It will be impactful. People won't remember what you said. They'll remember what you did. The change, the growth, the presence you now carry. And that presence was built in silence. So keep going, keep building, keep rising. Even in the dark, don't let the lack of recognition stop you. Your progress is still valid. Your growth is still real. One day you'll look back and realize the quiet work was the foundation, the discipline, the solitude, and the commitment to yourself. That was the work. That was the preparation. That was the version of you that changed everything. You never needed an audience. You needed belief. Quiet, consistent, unshakable belief. And that's what makes you unstoppable. There's freedom in no longer needing others to see your progress. When you trust the process, instead of performing for approval, you take the pressure off. You focus on real progress. This is where transformation begins. Not in showing others the journey, but in living it fully, day by day, with no need for recognition. Because the truth is, the most powerful changes are the ones no one expects, and those are built in private, not for display. One of the most overlooked advantages of building quietly is emotional control. When you're not constantly sharing your life with the world, you become less reactive to everything around you. You stop comparing your progress to others. You're less affected by opinions, criticism, or even praise. You begin to lead from within, rather than chasing what's outside. That inner calm, emotional mastery, is a critical foundation for meaningful success. Because the truth is, life is unpredictable, but when you build in silence, you learn to respond instead of react. You stay calm in chaos, focused in the noise, and that clarity becomes your advantage. Quiet growth also builds integrity. When you consistently do the right thing, especially when no one is watching, you build self-respect, and self-respect becomes the root of real confidence. You know who you are, you know what you've overcome, you know what you've sacrificed. You've shown up on hard days, you've stayed committed even when no one noticed or thanked you. That quiet, steady effort shapes your character, and while many chase approval, you're becoming someone dependable, someone you trust. That kind of strength is rare, not loud, but solid. You become your own source of pride. You look in the mirror and feel grounded, not because others celebrated you, but because you know what you've done. Building in silence also sharpens your intuition. When you stop seeking constant validation, you begin to listen to your instinct. You stop overthinking. You stop questioning every move, because now you're not trying to meet expectations, you're working to meet your potential. That inner compass becomes clearer with every quiet decision. You begin to trust your own judgment. You stop outsourcing your value, and in the stillness, the noise fades. You realize you always had the answers, you just needed the quiet to hear them. Another major benefit of building quietly is momentum. Quiet builders know that movement, even small steps, creates forward motion. In the beginning, progress can feel invisible. You may think nothing's changing, but when you stay consistent through that silence, when you stack small wins, day after day, you start to build momentum that doesn't slow down. People don't see the early work. They don't notice the late nights, the early mornings, the skipped events, or the times you kept pushing through when quitting would have been easier. But those quiet choices are what build lasting momentum. That's what makes the difference. While others wait for the right moment, or the perfect mood, you're already building, steadily, quietly, without pause. And finally, quiet growth brings humility, the kind that grounds you. You stop needing to prove anything. You stop trying to be impressive. You stop competing to outshine others. Why? Because your focus is no longer on appearances. It's on becoming the best version of you. When you build in silence, you begin to understand that the real competition was never with others. It was always within. You're not trying to outrun someone else. You're working to outpace the version of yourself that made excuses. And that shift in mindset, it changes everything. Quiet growth also teaches gratitude. You begin to value the small things, the daily effort, the consistent habits, the steady improvement. You stop rushing toward the end result and start appreciating the process. That mindset, patience, paired with appreciation, becomes your fuel. You realize success isn't a single milestone. It's the daily choice to show up, to try, to believe, and you don't need to broadcast it, because the journey itself is already enough. So if you're building yourself quietly, know this: you're doing something powerful. You're stepping away from the noise. You're aligning with purpose. You're creating a version of yourself that doesn't depend on attention or crumble under pressure. And when the results come, and they will, it won't be luck. It won't be hype. It will be the outcome of discipline, consistency, and belief. You're not waiting to be seen. You're preparing to be undeniable. That quiet preparation, done steadily and without applause, will change everything. There will be a moment when you understand that noise doesn't build anything, discipline does. And in that moment, you'll choose silence. You'll choose focus. You'll choose to build something real, not for praise, not for likes, not to be approved by others, but for yourself. And that's when things truly shift. Because the moment you stop living for outside attention, you begin living with intention. And it's that intention that turns you into someone strong, grounded, and capable. When you decide to build yourself quietly, one of the first things you let go of is the need to be understood. Not everyone will get your path. Some won't understand why you've stepped back, why you've stopped sharing every update, why you've moved away from superficial validation. And that's okay. You don't need their permission to grow. You don't need to explain your silence. Let them wonder. Let them talk. Let them assume whatever they want. Your only responsibility is to keep showing up for yourself every single day. The people who are meant to stay will support you, even in your silence. The rest, let them go. Building quietly means embracing the grind, the unglamorous, repetitive effort that no one sees. The early mornings when getting out of bed is hard, and the late nights when quitting feels easier. But you don't stop. These uncomfortable choices are the foundation of your success. You don't need to go viral to be valuable, or have a massive audience to create purpose. What you need is a clear mission, a plan, and the discipline to follow through. That steady, quiet effort is what separates those who dream from those who do. Along the way, your relationship with failure changes. Failure stops being public shame and becomes private lessons. Without the pressure of judgment, you gain the freedom to experiment, make mistakes, adjust, and grow. Every setback becomes a stepping stone, and you keep moving forward, not to prove anything, but to become someone stronger. Through this process, you develop a deep, quiet confidence, an inner peace that comes from knowing you're doing the work. It's not about showing off or pretending. It's real progress, step by step, choice by choice. Months or years from now, when you look back, you'll be amazed at how far you've come, not because you announced it, but because you quietly did the work consistently. That's the power of silent growth. Quiet growth also sharpens your focus. When you're not building for attention or approval, you stop wasting energy on distractions. You begin to ask better questions. Does this align with my goals? Is this helping me grow? Is this worth my time? These questions guide you toward what truly matters, helping you prioritize with clarity and intention. In the end, building quietly isn't about hiding or being small. It's about being intentional, disciplined, and resilient. It's about creating a version of yourself so strong and grounded that you no longer need validation from others. You build for yourself with purpose, patience, and unwavering belief. And that's what makes you unstoppable. When the final wake-up call comes, it's always you versus. Every choice becomes intentional, and that's when momentum builds in ways that last. You're not just getting better at what you do, you're becoming wiser about how you do it. That clarity and focus are rare, and they're incredibly powerful. But here's the most important truth: your future self is watching. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, show up without recognition, and push through when no one's clapping, you're building someone ready to handle success when it arrives. Because success without preparation becomes stress, but success built in silence, that's stability, power, and legacy. So keep going, keep grinding, keep showing up in silence. Let them doubt you,
Let them think you're done. Let them wonder what happened. You don't owe anyone updates or explanations. Your results will be the proof. Your transformation will be the answer. And when the world finally sees what you've become, it won't be because you told them. It'll be because you showed them quietly, consistently, relentlessly. That kind of success, that's the kind that lasts.